Right, so let's see. Moving right into our agenda here, we've got a number of great topics today. So we'll be hearing from a number of team members. But before we dive into these topics, just want to kick off with some community updates here. So we're very excited. PatternFly 6.3 is live. That went out a few weeks back. Some of the features that adds are React 19 support, so that's official. We had spoken to that in the last community meeting, that it was in pre-release and available if you needed that to unblock anything. But now it's officially live with 6.3. So if you are using React 19 or looking to use React 19, that is now enabled. PatternFly will support that. That said, this was rolled out in a non-breaking way. So we do still officially support React 17 and React 18. This doesn't change that. It just unblocks any interruption with React 19 support. We've also got component animations and motion guidelines added. So we'll be taking a look at that a little bit later. I think Parthiv is going to give us a demo on some of those animations, but we're really excited for those. So we've got a number of components that incorporate animations. The release highlights for this release do a great job of calling out specifically what types of animations, which components they affect, and then also which ones come totally for free, just out of the box, versus which ones you can enable manually. So definitely take a look at those, and we'll get into some of those a little bit later. We do have some new chatbot features and updated AI principle and guidelines documentation. So really exciting to see the AI space continue to move forward. And one thing that's cool, a little out of the box, we have a CLI handbook now that's been added by a community member with some guidance on designing for command line interfaces. So that's something that we haven't seen a lot across other design systems, and really appreciate and are excited to offer that contribution that's on our website right now. So now that 6.3 is live, we went ahead and hot off the press yesterday, put out a patch 6.3.1. So we've gotten some feedback from consumer teams. We definitely appreciate that. Thanks, James. Keep that coming, because that helps us understand where to focus, what's working well, and what we can take a closer look at. So Ansible, working on the PatternFly 6 upgrade, had some great feedback for us on some things they were seeing. A great collaboration there. So again, thanks to that team for letting us kind of dive into some of the code and take a look at some custom styles that are there and some things on our side as well. So we've got a few fixes there. With Ansible, there's a sidebar issue from OpenShift AI that we were able to address so that they could land new animations in preparation of their coming release. There's an issue with quick starts reported by console.group, HCC. So again, another great collaboration, and thanks for the feedback there. And also with ChatBot, specifically interaction using a Japanese keyboard, and that came to us from the OpenShift Lightspeed team. So, and finally, discovered vulnerability in the ChatBot dependency as well. So all of these are included in that 6.3.1 release that did go live yesterday, and the website was updated at the end of the day yesterday. So if you log on to patternfly.org, you'll see that 6.3.1 in the top right corner, and it is just 6.3 with these handful of updates. So again, definitely keep us updated. We want to make sure that PatternFly works well, is successful, and there aren't any blockers to everyone taking advantage of what we're working on. So if you have any feedback, we are all ears and would love to hear it. Just two quick updates. These are carried forward, but a reminder. We do have the quarterly community meeting. If you're here, you found it. So this is once a quarter. Again, we'll run through highlights. And this recording will be shared out. It'll also go onto our YouTube channel. We are slowly taking over the world, so you'll see us there. But also office hours. So these are, we used to have separate meetings. We've combined that bi-weekly. So that's design and development. And so that's where anyone in the community can come, bring any sort of questions, topics, suggestions, specific one-off things that you're working through and just need some extra eyes on, and our team will be there and ready to take a look. We do have an agenda leading into that meeting each week, so if you know of something you'd like to talk through, feel free to add it there. If not, or if something comes up in the moment, you can always hop on and we'll be there and happy to take a look. All right, I think that's all we've got for community updates. So without further ado, we can jump right into our agenda topics. I think kicking us off here with some updates around ChatBot are Kayla and Rebecca.
Sweet, thanks, Evan. I'm going to be talking for Rebecca today since she's out. Thanks everyone for coming. So we've completed a set of new features and demos shaped directly from the user testing results that were found in Q1. Keep an eye out for these updates in the next release, and you can also follow along in progress or join conversation in our working group ChatBot extension Slack channel. Coming soon are enhancements like new icon and title for the history drawer to make its purpose more clear, message separators, new ways to interact with the chat history, including editing the chat name, pinning important chat items. And then we also have several of these enhancements being shown in demos, including things like transcript downloading and editing a message in the demo. Yeah, that's everything for now, and we're excited to keep improving the experience, and feedback's always welcome.
Great, thanks, Kayla. And again, feel free to hop into that channel if you have any feedback or just looking for updates there. So let's see, moving right along, we've got Patrick and Andrew who are going to talk through some different PatternFly metrics and research opportunities. Patrick, did you want to steal the screen share here?
If you would just leave it on this screen so I can go through this content, and then I'll steal the screen demo. Thanks,
Perfect.
Evan.
Yep.
Hey, everybody. Well, excuse me. Hey, everybody. I just want to give you guys some updates on user feedback survey that we're looking to implement at PatternFly.org. It's going to be a Qualtrics survey that we're going to wrap in some PatternFly components. What we want to do is just make some first steps in gathering some metrics around PatternFly. This will be about user sat predominantly. We'll also get some information about some demographics from people who are who choose to respond to the survey. And that'll be a question that we're going to ask on the survey as well. So it'll start off with asking if you are a Red Hat associate or not, and combined with that, if you're a designer or developer. And then there's another question. I'll show you all this when I give you the demo. Then there's an optional open-ended feedback, which I think will be really valuable for people to provide input in a more open-ended fashion. The survey is anonymous. But we will have an option for folks to leave contact information to get follow-up either from us or the Red Hat research team on participating in other studies that they've got going on. We're looking to get this implemented this quarter. I've been talking to Nicole a little bit about it, and I'm going to follow up with her when she gets back from PTO next week and see what we can do. Also need to follow up with someone from the research team about the template that we're using, and I'll show you some aspects of that I think we need to fix for this survey. So without further ado, I'll just get going on that. Excuse me, I'm having trouble talking. All right, I'm gonna steal the screen. Okay, awesome. Here we go. So what you'll see here, this is, you know it, you love it, patternfly.org. What we're going to do is add a give feedback button attached to the viewport on the right-hand side in the center of the screen. So if somebody wants to access that, they click that, and they're going to get the feedback form in a modal. What you'll notice immediately is that this does not look like PatternFly because we're consuming the Qualtrics survey inside it. So there'll be a couple of questions here. The first is, what best describes your relationship with PatternFly? I'm a UX designer and Red Hat associate, developer, Red Hat associate. UX designer, member of the open source community, and so on and so forth. And then there's an other field. And here we're going to ask the primary question we're interested in is what's your satisfaction? This will definitely change. We're going to work on some verbiage around this, but this is just a placeholder for now. And then at the bottom, there's the optional open-ended field question for any comments or feedback that they may have. Again, this text is going to be rewritten. This was something that was provided by the research team, and we want to make this the PatternFly voice. So I'm going to work with Aaron on how we phrase some of these questions and the stems for some of the questions as well. So I'll just take you through two different flows. If you say you're a Red Hat associate, and then I just went ahead and filled in that one as extremely satisfied, and you move forward, you will get this screen, which you have the option to enter your email address for follow-up on your input, and then you go to this next screen and you're done. Then you can X out. So one thing I'm going to talk with the research team, because this is templated, this is a Qualtrics template that they use. I'm going to try to combine some of these fields, like the email field and that final screen, to see if we can work through that. Won't have that option for the external open source community responses. So if I go through that flow and click next, this page comes up where this is the templated research form where you say, Red Hat can reach out to me for my feedback here and any future studies, or my feedback provided here only, or no communication from Red Hat at all. If I say I want to do future studies, then I get sent to a screen where I provide email address and then a whole lot of legalese, which is required. And then you have to explicitly agree or do not agree, and then click one of those, and then you're gone. So that's that. The other flow is if you were to select just only my feedback or no content, then you would go to that final screen. So I don't need to go through that flow, but yeah, that's what we got going on. Still a work in progress, but like I said, we're hoping to get this done in Q3. So stay tuned.
Great, thanks, Pat. Let me bring that screen share back up. And looks like following your lead, we've got Andrew.
Yes, thanks. So recently the PatternFly team had a face-to-face, and we did our own kind of mini version of this where we put on our user hats and we went through the exercise of trying to understand how our users are using PatternFly today. So now we want to extend it to different stakeholders in product management, UX design, and front-end engineering to really understand how you interact with PatternFly, if there's any pain points or gaps or efficiencies that we can create, if you're a PM who wants to do more vibe coding, and how can we enable that kind of work. So the point is we're going to try and get together and have some journey mapping workshops with these key stakeholder groups and really dive into how you interact with PatternFly, and then we'll do some exercising on solutioning as well and try and find all the things that will make your lives better. So if you're interested in participating in the workshop, we'll be holding them in September. You can reach out to me directly in Slack or send me an email, and I can send out session information ahead of the workshop, just so everyone's clear on what the tasks will be and the timeline. And that's it.
Good deal. Thanks, Andrew. All right. Moving right along here. Next, we've got a preview of the high contrast theme and some updates from Lucia.
Yeah, hi. You can go to next slide. So a lot of this information is repetitive, but I wanted to call out that over the last quarter, we partnered with the Ansible design team and spec'd out a lot of areas where the new border applications would apply across our base components or all of our components, and then also updated the color tokens to match the new high contrast, increased contrast guidelines and requirements. And then this quarter, the dev team has already gone full send and has a lot of PRs going through, and we've been able to put together a working POC demo screen, which I'll show you on the next slide. And I guess I might take over screen share, actually. That would make sense. So yeah, our dev team has put together this working demo, which is awesome. You can see across multiple components, those increased border styles, added border styles for high contrast showing up. You can also see the color values have changed for enhanced contrast requirements. This is a working prototype, so you can go through here, submit it, and you'll get the updated color values across our alerts, error alerts as well. So it's really cool. To turn on the high contrast mode, you will have to go into your OS settings, your accessibility settings, and turn increased contrast on to get the high contrast values if you want to play around with this on your own. And then I'll also just show you that high contrast is all spec'd out for dark theme as well. So you can see that in this demo too. And we will be using this demo this upcoming quarter for some formal research that we're partnering with the Ansible team's researcher for on too. Yeah.
Awesome. This is exciting. Thanks, Lucia. It's great to see this moving forward, and the collaboration, with Ansible, getting that request directly funneled from a customer over to us so we could act on it. So great. All right. I'm going to pull my screen. Oh, looks like I'm still presenting. Good deal. All right, so moving right along, we mentioned animations earlier, and Partha is going to take us through a tour of some of those. I'll actually switch my screen share to pull that up here.
Yeah, perfect. Hi, everyone. So this is an animations guided tour that was put together by myself and Jeff Phillips. Yeah, so I guess we can get started. So if you go ahead and click Start Tour there, it'll take you to the first animation. So this is the alerts animation. If you click Add Alert in the blue text, you'll see a toast animation. It pops down from the top and then it slides out. If you click Next, this is the next animation with our settings icon. So if you hover your cursor right over the actual icon itself, you'll notice that little gear rotates. Yeah, that's an animation right there. If you click Next, yeah, this is the next animation with our hamburger icon. So again, this is an animation that only occurs on hover. So if you put your cursor right over the icon itself, it gives you the option to expand the sidebar and close the sidebar, and it's a different animation each time. Yeah, just like that. And if you click Next, yeah, so this is the animation with our notification badge. If you click the Add Notification button, essentially what that does is that it triggers an alert, and it causes an animation with the bell icon to kind of mimic it ringing. So then our next animation, click Next, is the tabs. So if you go ahead and select the different tabs there between Overview, Resources, and Database, you'll notice that blue bar right below the text smoothly slides between each one. Just like that. And if you click Next, the next animation is the skeleton loader. So this is a component that is built for tables to kind of show that the data is being loaded, or to show that there's some sort of process going on in the background. Yeah, and if you click Next, the next animation is for our expandable sections in the tables. So if you click any of those little icons on the left, you'll notice that the content of a given row will either expand or collapse, and there's a respective animation for each as it slowly fades in or fades out. And there's also an animation with the expandable icon as well. Just like that. And then this is one of our main animations. This is for validation errors. So if you go ahead and click the Submit button at the bottom of the form, you'll notice that when fields aren't properly filled out, there's a error validation jiggle to kind of grab the user's attention and show them there's something that isn't being filled out properly. You can click reset and you can see that animation again, just like that. And our last animation is with the spinner icon. It's a bit small, but if you look at the bottom of the page, yeah, that's perfect. You'll notice that there's a little spinner that's going round and round to kind of show that something is loading, or again, that there's some process working in the background. And yeah, those are the 9 main animated components that PatternFly has recently added. Yeah, James.
Yeah, this is awesome. Love it. Which library are y'all using for the animations underneath?
I'd have to double check. I'm not sure off of the top of my head, but I can get back to you on that one.
Okay. And then I also had a question of when are these in 6.3?
Yes, I believe they are in 6.3. And
Is there something we need to do to turn them on? Because I'm running 6.3 and I'm not seeing them.
yes, I believe most of these animations are opt-in. So
Okay.
a lot of these components have a new prop associated with them called has animations. And so long as you specify that prop, the component should be animated. I believe there is some effort to go from making this from opt-in to something that's there by default, but I'm not sure what the status of that is. So I can get back to you on that as well.
Okay. And then one last question on this.
Mhm.
Does it respect the browser settings if the user says they don't want animations?
Say that for me one more time.
If a user sets that they want no animations in the browser, does the library underneath respect that? And I'm seeing Andrew nod.
Yeah.
So,
It reacts to the OS. So if it's reduced motion is turned on, nothing. It does a fade on the animations instead of any kind of movement. Yeah.
awesome. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? All right.
Yeah, thanks for that demo, Jen.
Yeah, not a question, but just wanted to urge anybody who does play around with our animations, if you have any feedback about that experience turning them on in product, please send that our way.
Yep. I definitely will. I'm turning them on right now. I'm running the code mod to see what it does. Thank you for the code mod.
James, I had a to-do to follow up with you this afternoon, so this is great. I'm glad we could knock that out here.
I already have a PR up to update the 6.3.1.
Okay.
We already tested it, but now I can see if I can turn this on.
Yeah, and it'd be great to just to see the animations go through testing, and if you do have any hiccups or feedback, or good or bad, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, this is awesome. Awesome.
All right. Well, thanks, Parthiv. I'm going to go ahead and turn it right back to you and let you keep rolling forward with the component groups.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. So PatternFly is getting 2 new component groups, the first of which is the field builder. So essentially, this is a component that is going to live inside a form. And what it allows you to do is essentially take form fields and then put them within rows. And this has a number of use cases, for example, for creating mappings or lists. And the way that we've been designing this component is so that it's flexible, and it has an add button or minus buttons for each respective row so that you can add additional mappings or delete mappings as you please. Yeah, and then the next component that we have is the column management modal. So essentially, this is a component that it brings upon clicking a button, it'll pop up a little modal screen that allows you to customize what columns in a given table you want to see. And all of this is customizable. So for example, columns can be configured to be enabled or disabled by default. And you can even make certain columns unhideable no matter what. And all of this is contained within a modal component. So yeah.
Great, thanks, Parthiv. And just one additional call out on the field builder. I know Jeff from our PatternFly enablement team actually saw this implemented or designed for product rollout and identified across a couple different products the same pattern, and so brought that back to the team as a suggestion of, hey, here's a common need. If we could build something to fit that, we can keep a consistent experience. So definitely love to get that feedback and have that proactive communication to help us identify what a gap may be that we can help fill, and then let Parthiv build it. So thanks, Parthiv. All right, so moving right along, Eric, have some accessibility updates for us?
I do. Since my update should be fairly quick, just a quick PSA how important it is to protect your personal information and data. So if you practice good cybersecurity, sit back, relax, wiggle your toes, go get a root beer float if you like them. Just make sure you brush your teeth afterwards, keep your breath clean and fresh. And if you love Lucy as much as you love root beer floats, celebrate her today. Watch some I Love Lucy. It's National Social Engineering Day, Fresh Breath Day, Root Beer Float Day, Wiggle Your Toes Day, and Lucille Ball was born on this day in 1911. So long ago. So that's out of the way. Real quick update. We had done a accessibility audit not super recently, but it's the most recent one. And we have an epic here tracking all the issues that have been opened up as part of it. And Q3, we are tackling those issues as part of the accessibility epic. And many of these issues are more demo or example code in nature in terms of what the issue is. But in particular, I just want to call out a couple of actual, component level updates that are in review now. One is tooltips were not being announced correctly on menu items. The ARIA wasn't being linked correctly, essentially. And the other one is in our core repo. The focus styling for buttons, depending on the button variant, was difficult to see at times because it could blend in, especially in dark theme. I could blend in with the actual button color. So those two are being tackled and in review now. And it's important, I think, for us to have issues that update our example and demo code, just to have always as up-to-date documentation for consumers, so they know this is how you should be using this component, kind of thing. And obviously, component level updates, improves for the user and potentially for the consumer as well, makes it kind of automatic or automates the accessibility for you a little bit. So yeah, currently, we had 36 issues open in this epic. 15 have been merged so far. 10 are in review or in progress, have been assigned, and 11 are currently unassigned, I believe, or at least remain not in review. So we're getting some good progress there. And just a quick shout out, if you've been wanting to contribute to PatternFly or get a little more familiar with accessibility in general, several of the remaining issues should have the good first issue labels. So we always welcome contributions from outside of PatternFly. We actually have had a great outside contributor doing just that recently. So yeah, that is about it for accessibility enhancement updates.
Good deal. Thanks, Eric. All right. It's always impressive how you manage to weave together all the special occasions in every single day. All right, so moving ahead, I'm going to speak a little towards product adoption and then pass over to Jan for our roadmap. But it looks like we likely will have plenty of time at the end of the call. So if you do have any questions, suggestions, feedback, go ahead and start thinking of those now, because we'll make sure that we get to some of those here at the end. All right, so product adoption, just a quick update here. We looked at something similar to this in the last meeting, but going into the release of PatternFly 6, we as a team had a number of kind of large products at Red Hat and platforms that we're hoping to kind of see adopt PatternFly 6, really influencers or would be ecosystems that would unblock a number of additional teams. And so it's awesome to see the progress here. So we've got 4 of the 5 there and have been working closely with Ansible to make sure that their rollout goes smoothly later this quarter. Excited to hear the enthusiasm for animations. So it'd be great to see those be picked up for it as well. But yeah, we've got 4 of the 5 that we've been targeting there. Hopefully this meeting next quarter, we'll have to find a new stat to track because all those will be green. And then just the number of issues that we track manually on our side related to PatternFly 6, it's always kind of a moving number because each week, each day, there's more issues that are closed and also more issues that are opened as new teams are looking to push for PatternFly 6. So anyways, that percentage is actually higher than it was last time, even though the total number of issues has jumped up a bit as well. So great progress there. And we're excited to keep the features coming with PatternFly 6 to deliver to anyone who hasn't adopted yet as well. All right, so Jan, if you want to speak towards our roadmap, I'll hand over to you and can run through the slides.
Awesome. Thanks, Evan. Hello, Flyers. We've got a new view of our roadmap here. 2 slides, so it'll be pretty quick. There's a lot of information on here. But this first slide focuses on our outcome on how we're evolving PatternFly's brand alignment and overall modernization. For our Q2 focus, we began with foundational efforts that included a Red Hat branded theme workshop, brand icon feedback sessions, and delivering micro animations and support for React 19. We also introduced CLI experience guidelines and kicked off design work for a high contrast theme. In Q3, we're building on this momentum, helping Red Hat teams adopt our new micro animations, advancing React component groups and improving accessibility, and pushing forward ChatBot user testing and table resizing features. So you saw a lot of details around these items earlier in the call today. So Evan, if we can go to the next slide. And this slide is focused on how we are strengthening PatternFly's effectiveness by auditing usability, measuring our maturity, and amplifying developer efficiency through AI tooling. So for our Q2 initiatives, we launched a pf.org navigation study and AI-enabled vibe coding. We've conducted a design guidelines audit and began maturity model assessments. These efforts help us understand our current state and where we want to invest next. For our Q3 efforts, we're delivering improvements like an MCP for our AI-enabled vibe coding offering, a redesigned navigation experience for PatternFly.org, and we're also validating user journey pain points. So for Q4 and beyond, looking ahead, we'll be measuring adoption, deliver code migration tooling, finalize JSON APIs for our React components, and hopefully introduce new starter apps. All of these items are designed to increase return on investment and usability of the PatternFly design system. If you ever have any questions about our roadmap, please reach out to me on our PatternFly Slack channel. We'd love to chat. Back to you, Evan, or Q&A.
Thanks. Yeah, no, some really exciting things. Looking forward. So yeah, like we said, I think that brings us to the end of the planned agenda. We've still got about 20 minutes of time booked. So I'm going to actually rewind real fast. So I'm going to take a step back in time just to the agenda if we need to kind of jiggle our memory. And just wanted to call out maybe for any of the core devs on the call. So James had a question earlier around animations and what library we're using, and just thought maybe if one of you guys had any thoughts to how those were built, maybe we could dive a little bit further.
Items tend to.
I can speak to that a little. No library, James. We've built those right into our components themselves.
So it's just CSS straight. Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, CSS as much as we could. Sometimes we had to do a little bit of React work um, especially for things like triggering notifications or something like that, that that has to be done on the React side. But as much as we could, we did it on the CSS side, since that's the most performant way to do it. And we really tried to stick to all the very performant types of animations. So all things happening, at that highest layer of the rendering when we could.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Cool. Thanks, Sarah. All right. So with that, I'll open it up to the community. This is your meeting. So any questions, feedback, thoughts, suggestions? Speak now. Feel free to drop it in chat. Raise your hand. We can give it a minute or two, and if we do hit radio silence, we can go ahead and wrap up. Eric.
Hi, first time viewer, I guess. No, I'm part of the community. I just want to add on to what Partha and Sarah have been talking about the animations. That in regards to some of these animations requiring a prop being passed in, like has animations for certain components to actually opt into the animations. There are also some components that are like technically opt in, but more because you need to like dictate when the animation triggers. Notification badge is one of them. Can't recall the exact prop off the top of my head. I want to say like should notify or something along those lines. Just because you dictate when the notify animation occurs rather than opting into an animation that just kind of happens when an action occurs, kind of thing.
Got it. Thanks, Eric. So it's a little kind of customizable, it sounds like. Instead of us dictating when it would happen, you can set that up. All right. Well, a lot of interest around animations. That's great to see, because we also have a lot of interest around animation. So yeah, again, as you pull them in, test them, we'd love to kind of stay in the loop there. James, please.
Well, while you're talking about animations, I was avoiding bringing this up earlier, but if y'all do decide to try more complex animations than just some of the CSS, I've been doing a lot of research on the best libraries. It seems like motion, I think it's Framer Motion was the old name, is the most popular, and I've been looking at it, and it has a lot of really cool stuff in it. And just throwing that out there for consideration.
You got the official thumbs up from Michael Coker. So yeah, no, thanks for the feedback. It's always good to, I think that's one of the strengths of having the community and kind of having these sorts of meetings, is leaning on the experience and kind of explorations of others. So yeah, that's great feedback. Jenny, please.
Hello. So just a quick question about animations, and yeah, something that we're hearing from the Roy AI product team. There's a question about so based on what Sarah was saying, it sounds like we have animations that they're mostly baked into the CSS level, but there are some cases that it's baked into React, like in the React level as well. I just wanted to clarify there on just kind of where it's all located.
Sure, I will phone a friend.
So I may ask Eric or someone to clarify too if I don't say it right, but so what I want to say is the way the animations happen is coded into the CSS, but for the most part, there are triggers that have to happen in the React to make it. So, for example, an alert needs to be added and some classes added to it so that it slides in and slides out. And our expanded collapse might need some handling so that if an item is added or removed to the DOM, it slides in and out the proper way. the notification, that's obviously when you need to tell it to notify. So I think the mechanics of the motion happens in the CSS, and then there are some triggers and futzing with the DOM possibly that has to happen in React. And I'll throw it to Eric if I've said anything wrong.
I don't know what you're talking about, Sarah. I've never worked on animations before. No, yeah, that's basically it. Yeah, like some components in React will need the has animations prop passed into it if you want to opt into it. And we tried, as best as we can, and to take care of basically anything that needs to happen for that animation to occur. So you pass in has animations, that's basically saying, hey, do things under the hood that needs to happen to make this animate when it should. And alert, like Sarah said, one example where you pass that has animations prop into the alert group, and from there, if any alert is added to that alert group, it's going to animate for you as long as have animations is true. And something like notification badge, again, that's more you have to pass in whatever logic to say, hey, wiggle at this point in time. And you can also pass in some optional logic to say, okay, now that's done, remove whatever class at this point in time that's making it wiggle. So you can kind of make it, wiggle again and again. Not again and again, but several times depending on your logic kind of thing. And we do have an example for notification badge showing how you might do that.
Thanks a lot for the clarity on that. Okay, so just to make sure I'm understanding correctly, it sounds like the animations themselves are set within CSS, but for the way that we're switching them on and off, so to speak, we're doing that on the React side. Is that correct?
For some of them, yeah. If a component has animations prop, that's an opt-in for now, and that just means do you want animations for this in general? Yes or no, kind of thing. And again, notification badge is one of the ones where it's more it's opt-in, but it's more you have to trigger it kind of thing. That should always kind of remain opt-in. Whereas alert, the plan currently, I believe, is to eventually make that the default behavior in the next breaking change.
So then this is only switching on and off for the opt-in ones. Otherwise, everything else is enabled by default, and that's purely on a CSS layer. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, some of them are just built in, like a button click now has a little ripple that happens on the button, and that's just there, and that's all CSS.
Awesome. So it's case by case. That sounds great. Thanks so much for the feedback and context there. That's really helpful.
Great question, Jenny. And I will also point back, just as a helpful reference after this call, the link that Jan shared in the chat to the component animations in the release highlights. Just looking at that, it looks like there's a easy glanceable reference as to which components have certain animations and which ones require opt-in versus not require opt-in, as well as a link to the code mods. So definitely keep the questions coming to us, and that might be a good reference as well. Jan, please.
Another animation question that came in from product, so don't shoot the messenger. So they're a little bit concerned about code maintenance moving forward with these having to opt into animations. And so they were discussing, do they set up a linter to make sure all so their scenario is they want to turn on all animations. So they ran our code mods, sweet, everything's on by in their code base right now. Developer comes along and implements new feature, doesn't read our documentation, doesn't turn on has animations, and now they've got inconsistency in their experience. And so they're trying to figure out, do I write a linter to catch this? Could I do something in my package.json file to always turn this on? What do we think as a PatternFly team about this scenario? So we told them ultimately we'll have a break and change release, and this will all, all of these opt-in, opt-outs will go away. But until then, how do they keep consistency in their code base?
I don't know if there's any of the React devs have any ideas. I guess I would just say that it's going to be something that they're going to need to keep track of. They can always run the code mods again. And
yeah, I think
Yeah.
code mods are a good start. The issue is we don't really want to like throw any console warnings or anything if the animations is opted out of, because there are valid reasons to not opt into every animation. And I think, at least from my perspective as a React dev, the components are pretty separated in what animations do. So I do even think that there's probably use cases where certain animations you probably wouldn't want and others you might want for the opt-in. So, and saying consistency across their entire product space with animations turned on is, I don't know if that's actually, I could see it both ways, but yeah, I think what Sarah said is it's going to be kind of on the dev to make sure that if animations are opt-in and they want them, that they'd have to opt in. At least until we do a break and change release.
Yeah, I was just going to echo the Shreya and code mods. I don't know if, product could enable that automatically in each like PR kind of thing, or yeah, I guess going off of what Katie was saying, like a console warning might only work on our PatternFly side if we can like check, using alert, just because it's, I think, one of the first alphabetically. If alert or alert group, has X class, but like another alert group doesn't, then throw a console warning kind of thing. I'm just going like gears turning in my head kind of thing. But that may not always, I don't know if that would always be the case if we're always applying, a class that's strictly for animations in some way to capture like all component X to see if they all have class Y. If not, throw a warning saying, hey, you have some with animation, some without kind of thing. Might work in some cases, might not work in all cases. We'd probably have to check through all the components with animations to see if that's even possible.
Jenny, then Austin.
So yeah, thank you all for the feedback there. I think that's great insight. I think just to add on a bit to what Jan was saying, the main concern from product in this specific case is like manually having that has animations prop set on each component. I think the concern there is that could potentially grow fragile over time, and that's kind of a maintenance burden in the long run, especially as teams grow. So I think generally maybe like my next question for the team is that maybe like perhaps we could like standardize as like on an approach, like maybe using context or something that maybe can wrap like the app of the product rather than having to manually set that has animations on every opt-in component that needs it. Just something a bit more centralized and more easy to maintain. Is that something that anyone here has any experience on, like in product, like particularly like with like theme providers or like setting dark theme? Like, is just curious if anyone here has run into something similar, or if we can continue that discussion. If not, I will cede the floor to Austin.
Well, so I'd love to just mention that I think having PatternFly having a context that's included, that you could set top level settings on, would be very interesting. I'd love to be able to say this customer wants a compact layout versus a comfortable layout. This customer wants animations. This customer wants this theme, and all that would need to be stored in, a state. And it's a little more for it's one extra piece every consumer of PatternFly would have to add, that PatternFly provider, context provider at the top level. But I could see a lot of settings in there that would be nice versus having to set it in a bunch of different components across the app. Like if we want compact tables, we manage our own settings and our own context so that every time we have a table in the app, we have to now apply compact to it. So just throwing that out there as a thought, but I do like that idea, Jenny.
That's great feedback. Thank you, James. Austin, did you have something you wanted to add?
I was just giving it a beat to see if anyone had any other comments about that specific topic. The idea of a PatternFly context is definitely interesting and something that I do think that we should explore more. In the meantime, though, if you want a way of enforcing this as something that's standardized across the app, you could add the animations code mod running in to your CI. You could also maybe do it with fixed mode. Like just have it be a step of your whatever formatting such that you have running on your code base already, to just run that code mod from NPX added to your CI suite. That I think that would probably address a lot of that concern without needing to wait for anything else to come out from PatternFly. At least as a near-term solution.
Oh, that's a great idea. Thanks, Austin. Yeah, so just something that can kick off that code mod workflow like automatically would be a great way to handle that. That sounds great too.
All right. Well, we definitely have some things to discuss a little bit further as a team. So if we do kind of land anywhere, or maybe have more questions back for you all, we'll keep the community updated. But thanks for the great discussion. I was just taking a step back for a little bit of levity. There's a lot of research that went into animations. What would be helpful, where they make sense, and then pixel perfect design to get them just right, and core team, focusing on performance and implementing them by hand, and React figuring out how to roll them out in a non-breaking way and build a code mod. But ultimately, I think Eric phrased it well when he said, wiggle at this point in time. That's ultimately what we're talking about. And I feel like that's something that my kids would get a chuckle out of. That's kind of what we get paid to do, is tell things when to wiggle. So anyways, I think this has been an awesome meeting. Thanks again for the discussion, to all the presenters and to everyone who joined us today. We will make sure the slides and the recording are sent out afterwards and are public. And as always, this is once a quarter, but if you have any questions, feedback, suggestions, feel free to reach out to us on Slack or file an issue, open a discussion, and we will be more than happy to dive right in. So thanks all for joining today. Hope you guys have a great afternoon, and we'll see you next time.